Hey, everybody. Hi, Patty. Hey, Linda. Hey, Emily. Hey,
Hi.
Lowry. Hi, Karen. Hey, Trina. Hey, Carrie. Hey, Scott. You guys can be on video or not. It's up to you. How's it going, everybody? Patty, Deborah. Hey, Lowry.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going? Ilva. Oh. Okay. I'm so happy that we're all here together today. I am going to give it just a minute or so before we start in because some people might be coming a little late. So I want to give it some time. And before I do that, I want to introduce you, if you don't know her already, to Cheyenne. And for me, she's like up in the corner in the screen. Cheyenne is my go-to girl for all the things. So if you haven't heard from her, I'm sure you will at some point. And she's just lovely. You want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. I'm sure if I don't, everyone's heard from me either via email or text or in Zoom or something, but so happy that we're all here together.
Yes.
Email me or text me or anything if anyone ever has any questions. I've stopped introducing myself with a title and I just tell people, I'm like, I'm Cynthia's right-hand lady.
That's true. She's my everything. Okay. And Martina, I am so happy to see you here. Your name pop up. It's been so long. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and get us started. Oh, and I get to see your face too, Martina. That makes me smile. I mean, I love seeing everybody's faces. It's just, it's been like years since I've seen yours. So that's lovely. Okay, so I'm going to keep my eye on the waiting room and let people in as they come. And I also I really am a big fan of the chat. So please use it, introduce yourself, say hi to everybody, just let people know where you are in the world so that we can feel connected, even though we're all in different places. I'm in DC. So please do that. Okay, I'm gonna get my slides up. I really am gonna try to keep this to an hour. If anything, it might go for an hour and a half, but I really would love to make it short and sweet for you guys. So let's see. Okay. Exit out of these. And here we go. Oh, Canada. I love Canada. I love Chicago. I love all the places. It's so funny. My son right now is really into the state puzzles. And so I feel like I'm learning so much more about the states of the United States. Okay, here we go. All right, let me know, can you see my screen? Yes, great. Okay.
But Cynthia, we can also see the chat. Or wait, no, we're good. You're good.
You can, okay, cool. Okay, so let me just open up the chat box so that I can see you guys in there. Also, you guys feel free to ask questions in the chat. And I am going to open it up later for questions as well. So there should be enough time. Okay, and as always, however you feel comfortable with your video on or video off, I leave it to you. I'm just happy that we get this chance to be together today. So welcome, I'm happy we're here. We're gonna learn today about strategies to really lead a more intentional life. And there we go. So I want to know which of these scenarios that you guys resonate with the most, and I'm going to go through them. So this is number one, okay? Right now you're feeling a little burnt out, maybe from work, a little stressed out, maybe frustrated, kind of, overwhelmed with all that's going on in your life outside of work, at work. Everything just feels kind of like blah, maybe a little boring. It feels kind of like the same day over and over and over again. And maybe you're gaining weight, maybe you're feeling like finances are hard for you right now, and you're just feeling overall, you're just feeling stuck. Okay, so that's the first scenario. The second might be that you love your job, right? You absolutely love what you're doing. You're really social, you're feeling like things are opening up more, so you're connecting more with other people. You're making just fine money, you're not having any issues there, you're eating healthy, you're exercising, you're doing yoga. And yet, even though you're doing all these things, you still feel like stagnant, or you still feel like, something is just off, little blah, like there's something missing. So I'm interested to know, which category do you fall into? If you don't fall into one of these, I definitely want to know kind of where you're coming in from. So there's one. So if you're one, put one, and if you're two, put two. Ones, twos, one-ish. I like that, Patty. Yeah. And I mean, we're not gonna always see ourselves in these, but I just want to get a sense from you guys of kind of where you're coming in from, right? In the sense that this idea of leading an intentional life, there's something missing right now for you potentially, or that feels missing, that led you to be here today. So I'm trying to understand what that is. Ones, yeah, ones and twos, 1 and 1.5. Love it. Okay. Yeah, so there's something that is kind of missing, right? Either we're on one side of the spectrum or we're on the other, and it actually doesn't matter which one we're on, because it can feel like, and some of you who have worked with me before know that I really like this little story about, there's a guy going down the dirt road and he's on a horse, and they're, trotting down, and the guy on the side of the road is like, "Where are you going?" And the guy says, "I don't know, ask the horse," right? And so a lot of times that's what life can feel like, right? Like we are just being led by the world around us, and it doesn't often feel like we have the reins. It doesn't often feel like we are in control, or that we actually know, the next right action for ourselves. And it kind of just feels like we're doing the same thing every day. We're going to work, or, working from home, or we're picking up the kids, we're making dinner, having the same conversations, having the same types of reactions, having the same arguments, having the same silence, right? And I don't know if any of you remember, there was a commercial when I was growing up that was like, go home, go to work, or go to work, go home, go to bed. Get up, go to work, go home, go to bed. And then it's like, go to McDonald's, right? And like the exciting thing of the day was to go to McDonald's. And so sometimes it can just feel like we're having the same day without any feeling of really excitement, or feeling engaged, or feeling present. And so by the time we get to bed at night, it's almost like the day just went by so quickly. Does any of this resonate? Put a 3 in the chat if it does, just so I know. Yes, Groundhog Day. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, but here's what happens, right? We're all smart people. And so we're kind of stumped by this because we've read books. It almost feels like we've read all the books, right? We've even probably gone to therapy at some point, gone to counseling at some point. We meditate, maybe. We do yoga, right? Like we exercise, we do all these things. We even try, daily routines. We try it all. And we still don't feel necessarily present in our relationships, or creative and inspired with free time if we have free time, right? Sometimes it can feel really hard to feel useful, or to feel impactful at work, and connected. And really, it's almost, I was thinking about it before I got on today's workshop. It really is like this sense of joy, right? To be able to tap into that place of joy in our lives. Like, where did it go? Or how do we find it again? right? And we try, right? That's what we do. We try it all. We keep trying and we keep trying, and all of that just exhausts us. And that's when we get burnout, right? And that's when we just let everything go, and we stop thinking, and we stop paying attention, and we stop bringing any type of awareness to what it is that we're doing, because we're just really burnt out by it all, right? And it feels so difficult. So here is where we are now, okay? We're caught in what is a cycle of dissatisfaction. And I'm going to run through what the cycle of dissatisfaction is. And the first piece of the cycle of dissatisfaction is, well, really, dissatisfaction is like the opposite of freedom. It's the opposite of creativity. It's the opposite of aliveness, of purpose, of enjoyment. And really what misperception is not seeing clearly. So thinking we need to do something other than we do, right? We need to be somebody other than we are to live a life that matters, that makes a difference, that we need to be better in some way, right? That what we're after doesn't exist today, but it exists tomorrow, or it exists next week, or it exists in, months from now or years from now. But the possibility of it being today, this moment, right? It in our minds, that's not necessarily a possibility, right? Oftentimes there's that feeling of if we were just wealthier, if we were just thinner, if we were just more calm, if we were just easier to connect with, that we wouldn't be fighting with our partners, we wouldn't be in debt, we wouldn't be letting ourselves down in some way, right? So I just want you to type into the chat now what you think you need to have, or who you feel you need to be able to find joy in today, right? Or like to feel engaged in your life, or to feel like the decision maker within it. Is there something that you feel like you have to achieve to be able to reach that place? And if so, I want you to put it in the chat for me, because what I want you to see is that this is a misperception, right? These are ideas that we have, these are beliefs that we have that aren't necessarily true. And wherever they come from, most of the time they come from past experiences, they come from when we were growing up, right? What we've been kind of conditioned to believe, socialized to believe, though that is not the reality, right? So I think I need to go in deeper to go through things and spend time examining it in order to move out of the cycle of dissatisfaction rather than filling the holes. Makes sense. That makes total sense, Karen, because what sometimes can happen when we're in these cycles, right, of dissatisfaction or maybe negativity, or it just feels like we're kind of looping, is that it can feel like we have to do a lot of inner work to get out of it, right? Or it feels like we have to do a lot to be able to move ourselves out of dissatisfaction. The truth, though, is that it doesn't take a lot to move ourselves into the opposite of this, which is what I'm going to share with you guys, right? What it takes, though, is what you're saying, right? It's the awareness that you're there, and then the action to move yourself out of it, as opposed to like the simmering within it, right? Or the sitting in the suffering of it. Does that make sense, Karen? I need to be able to say no. Family, yep, family around me who live far away. It is a process, currently not on track. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Difficult to put this in a sentence, perhaps better at setting realistic expectations for myself and what is possible to achieve in what amount of time. I think that I should be a super person and I can only move one mountain at a time. Yes, I love that. I should be a super person, right? In our minds, we have all of these shoulds. We have all these expectations of ourselves. And they're often really impossible for us to meet. And sometimes we set them for that very reason, so that we get to be upset with ourselves for something, or we get to be mad at ourselves for something, right? And so what we want to start doing is we want to start being able to see these misperceptions, starting to see the exaggeration, right, of a lot of these, or the extremes, right? Because when we look at misperception, it's often the extremes. You rarely see the balance. You rarely see the middle, right? So the first place of this cycle is misperception. Then we get into attachment. Okay. So we are so attached to these desires, right? To be like the super person, or, to be extremely calm and relaxed in difficult moments, right? To be kind. We are so attached to the desire to be present, to be happy, alive, engaged, right? Perfect in a lot of ways, or at ease with ourselves, that it creates so much suffering, right? Because attachment is really what causes us to lose in some way, right? Because if we're attached to something and it doesn't happen, we're going to be let down. If we're attached to something and it does happen, we're going to be like super excited, right? So it's this place that dictates whether things are good or things are bad. And what we want to start to pay attention to is how attached we are to wanting to be more, or be different, or be something better, right? Because this attachment, what it then does is moves us into the next phase of the cycle, which is reaction, right? So you have this misperception of something, you're attached to it, and because of that attachment, you react, right? So we try everything to feel more connected, more aligned. We read the books, we meditate, we do yoga, we go on the retreats, right? We try different routines, we do different eating fads, we exercise. And these are the reactions we do, right? We're attached to a misperception of something. And so we force ourselves into action, which then leads us to compulsive dissatisfaction. Because really what we're doing is every time we believe something, right? Every time we try to be that superhuman, let's just say, and we're attached to this notion of it, we let ourselves down because we're not reaching that place. And then we try to do all this work to get ourselves there, and we can't reach that place. So we're just constantly dissatisfied, right? And I mean, I'm talking in general terms, but if you think of specific examples in your life where you are in kind of this cycle of dissatisfaction, I'd love to know, right? So really, this feeling of compulsive dissatisfaction right now, is this apparent? Like, is this in your life somewhere? And where is it? Where does it show up? Because in this place, nothing changes, right? The days feel the same. And sometimes even what we start to help us feel better, or more at ease, or more engaged with our life, that actually becomes one more thing that you need to start getting right, or that you need to start doing. And that then leads to even more dissatisfaction, right? Finances, relationship. It shows up in my feelings of frustration with little things. Yeah, it can show up. I mean, it can show up everywhere. It can show up in motherhood. It can show up in, even just walking your dog around the block, right? I mean, it's small and subtle, this cycle. So this is where we are often, right? Like we're just caught in the cycle. Yes, the energy it takes to stay on track, on task. It shows up in putting my own priorities last. So things that I want to do, like clearing clutter or organize something, or even exercising, comes last. Right. We just end up getting everything shows up and walking your talk. That's true, Cheyenne. Yeah. So here we are. This is where we are. It doesn't feel so great, but now we know, right? We're kind of in this dissatisfaction loop. So what we want instead, we want to feel satisfied, right? Like we want to feel happy and pleased in our lives. We want to feel content. We want to feel grateful. We want to take the reins and lead ourselves out of the cycle of dissatisfaction. We want to move toward a life of satisfaction. And we want to stop trying to do this, right? And some of you who have worked with me before, you may have heard me say this, but if you have a pen or a pencil on your desk, I want you to just try to pick it up. Okay, but see, Patty, you just did it. You just picked it up. You didn't try to, you just did it, right? So it's like, we can't try to do this anymore. We just have to start doing it. Okay, this is kind of what Denise, I'm going to go back. I think it was Denise that was saying, right? Like, I just want to start doing this. I don't want to like be dreaming about this anymore. I just want to start engaging in my life again. And I just want to enjoy it, right? So here we are. We're going to move into what is the cycle of satisfaction. So the cycle of satisfaction is the truth, the reality. We want to start getting really honest with ourselves about what is true, right? We want to be like this superhuman. We have these perfect ideals of what our lives should look like, you know, how we should interact with people, how we should connect. But what is really true, right? What is real here? Okay, so we want to start moving into out of misperception and into reality. And a lot of us don't want the reality, right? Though that is what's required here. So we want to move into reality. Then instead of attachment, which can lead to ignorance in a lot of ways, right? We want awareness. We want to start being aware of, we want to start being aware of what is true and what is misperception. We want to start being aware of what we're attached to and how that's either helping us move forward or it's keeping us stuck, right? And here's where intentional living comes into the mix, right? Intentional living, it's almost like your guideline, right? Like the ethics of things. So you have the truth, you have reality, you have awareness, then you have a path. You have a path over to satisfaction, right? So that's where this idea of intentional living or leading a more intentional life comes in, because you can only lead an intentional life if you are living in the reality of things and you are aware of when you are not. Does this make sense? You can put a 2 in the chat if this makes sense. Okay, good. Okay, so here we are, intentional living. Okay, so what is intentional, right? What's an intentional life? An intentional life is a conscious life. It is a deliberate one. It is a knowing one. It is purposeful, right? It's being helpful. It's being deliberate. It is conscious, right? It's non-judgmental. It's, having judgments, but not necessarily acting on them if they're hurtful, right? It's being kind. It's being honest. And it is impossible to experience the cycle of dissatisfaction if you're leading an intentional life. It's impossible because when you are leading an intentional life, you have an awareness. You have an awareness of the direction you want to go, how you want things to feel. And so you know very quickly whether you're in this cycle of dissatisfaction. And so if you're leading with intention, your idea then is to move yourself intentionally move yourself out of the dissatisfaction loop, right? Because you lead with awareness, right? So that it's like the moment that you find yourself moving in the direction of dissatisfaction, you're deliberately moving yourself out of it. And purpose, right? With intentional living, there's actually a purpose to it, right? There's a reason for this way of living, right? Whereas now it might just feel like, you know, every day is kind of the same. There's no direction, there's no guideline for it. But the purpose of intentional living is to really help ourselves and others suffer less. So if the purpose of intentional living is to help ourselves and others suffer less, it's really impossible for you, again, to be in the cycle of dissatisfaction. So do you feel like you understand like the importance of an intentional life? And yeah. Yes. Okay. So tell me, okay, great. So if you were 5% more intentional in your life, you would, and just finish the stem of the sentence and put it in the chat for me. Or even what wouldn't happen anymore, right? Be happier, healthy, moving my body more, set boundaries, not be distracted by mindless activities. Yep, procrastination, enjoyment, presence, rather than daydreaming about a pretend future. I love that. Have more patience, be less impatient, not so judgmental, kinder, set aside savings, exercise. Yeah. See though how different it is through this lens, right? Than the lens of I need to exercise so that I can, right? Or I need to be patient so that this happens, right? It's a very subtle shift in the lens through which you're looking, but looking at it through this idea of an intentional life is so that I can suffer less and others can suffer less. You start to really pay attention to the things that make you feel good, right? The things that bring about more satisfaction than dissatisfaction. And so you start to look at maybe it's the same things that, let's say, you might even be doing now, but the difference is you end up doing them with more presence. You're there. You're actually wanting to be there. You're engaged with it, and it's fun, right? Like it's fun again. You're not just like taking an art class because you know that you need to be creative and you have an hour free, and this is something that you should be doing because you used to like to do it, right? Totally different. Now suddenly it's like, I really love painting on canvas, right? Like this is exciting for me. This isn't something that's making me better or different, right? This is something that's actually just enhancing who I am and tapping into this place of joy, right? Does this make sense? Put a 4 in the chat if it's making sense to you. Okay, good. Okay. Emily, I'm so happy to see you here too. Okay, great. So I'm just going to tell you quickly that this is who I am. I know most all of you who are on here, but I'm Cynthia, and I'm the author of How to Communicate Like a Buddhist, Talk to Yourself Like a Buddhist, and How to Meditate Like a Buddhist. I'm the founder and CEO of the Kane Intentional Communication Institute. And really, I help people to be more intentional with their language, with their lifestyle, within our training programs, books, workshops, and things of that sort. And I live this practice, right? And the practice that I'm going to share with you today, I live this, and I live it for a reason. The reason is so that I am present. The reason is so that I am connected, and so that I am engaged, and so that I really get to enjoy my relationships. I get to really get excited about sharing and teaching. And it really makes it so that I don't get stuck in this cycle of dissatisfaction, which is so easy to do, right? And it's where I used to exist. I used to live in the cycle all the time. This is me. Like, here I am, I'm traveling. I just want you to know. And the picture where I have this hat on, I'm in Argentina. I'm in like the most beautiful place with like glaciers and everything. And I'm so dissatisfied, right? Like, I wasn't able to be there and enjoy it because I didn't know how to move myself out of the misperceptions of things, right? And the attachment to things. And here I am, and I think this is actually in Charleston. But yeah, just to let you know, I am well versed in this cycle of dissatisfaction. And I didn't know, though, that I was there until my first love passed away unexpectedly. And it threw my whole world just upside down. And I was really in this state of suffering that I'd never experienced before. And this cycle of dissatisfaction was constant. Like, I could not get myself out of it. It was just suffering upon suffering upon suffering upon suffering, right? And I tried everything, I read all the books, I did courses, I did therapy, I did coaching. I mean, I was looking for anything to get me out of this. And this is how I felt. I felt like I was in like one of those mazes where I thought I had found it, and I'm like, okay, this is it. And then I get stuck, and then I'd try this, and then I'd try that, and I would just get stuck. And so a lot of you know that really what really resonated with me was the communication piece, right? And that's where I learned the elements of right speech in Buddhism, which were to tell the truth, don't exaggerate, use helpful language, and don't gossip. And that, to me, when I heard that, it was like, okay, amazing. This is my path out of suffering right now. And then I tried to understand, well, what does this actually mean? How do you actually do this? So then I created this practice around communication, right? Which is what we teach in our training program. And while this changed my world completely, what then I started to wonder was, how do I keep this? Like, how do I lead an intentional life? How do I lead a life where I'm satisfied, right? Where I felt more satisfaction than dissatisfaction, where I could take a moment that was not a great moment and turn it around, right? And it's like simple moments where, as even just what happened today, I was trying to make dinner early for my kids, and I opened my one of my spices to put on the chicken, and the top was off. And so I just poured in the entire, like all of the oregano, all of it. And that's a minor moment, but one that would have thrown me like into an entire loop of just being stupid. And I can't believe I did this. And like, all the things. And I would have been so angry, and I would have been so annoyed. And then that would have spilled over into, well, I can't even believe that I have to make this early because, and then you just go everywhere. But because I now understand how to move myself out of this cycle, it was really easy for me to just be like, okay. And then I poured it. I figured out how to do it, to like pour the oregano into the trash can. But I was able to move on from it, right? So how, though, right, is the question. And this is what I created, called the Eternal Knot Practice. So this is really how I believe you lead an intentional life, and you live in a place more where you are satisfied. You live in a place where you are, not unconscious, but where you are aware, you are present, you are able to meet chaos with calm and navigate difficult situations, right? And so just a little bit about the eternal knot. So it's also called, some people call it the endless knot in Buddhism. And it symbolizes, in Buddhism at least, it symbolizes like the birth, life, death, and rebirth, right? So this to me is life, right? This is living. And it has no beginning and it has no end. So it just represents kind of like endless wisdom, endless compassion. And the other reason why this came to be in this way too is because there's what's known in Buddhist psychology as internal knots. And this is when someone says something unkind to you or something happens that is uncomfortable, and we don't necessarily understand it. And, you know, there's tension there. We become irritated by it or something. It's said in Buddhist psychology that a knot is tied in us. So for every difficult interaction you've had, every difficult experience you've had, you have within you knots, right? This is the idea. And so this practice to me, the eternal knot practice, so I want to join. So the eternal knot practice is really, in my opinion, what sustains and maintains an intentional life, but also what dissolves those internal knots formed from that cycle of dissatisfaction. Because the cycle of dissatisfaction is what creates those knots. And I really believe that this dissolves them, right? And so today I'm going to share with you there's 12 practices of the eternal knot practice, and I'm going to share with you 4. For those who go into the year-long mentorship program with me, we're going to be practicing all 12 of them. I'm going to share all 12 of them with you, but I'm only going to go into 4 of them today. So these are the 4 we're going to talk about today. So there's attention, direction, energy, and congruence. Okay, so attention. We start with attention because this is how you learn to move yourself, right? You cannot move yourself forward. You cannot move yourself sideways. You can't move yourself anywhere without knowing how to work with your attention, right? So we have to start moving our attention to that which is helpful. We have to start moving our attention away from language that keeps us in the state of dissatisfaction. We have to start moving our attention to our new purpose, right? And we have to start to move our attention to become the observer. Okay, so you first move our attention. Okay, so to move our attention, we have to learn how to move it from something that is fixed to something that can move. So most of the time right now, our attention is on things that we don't have, things that we don't like, things that aren't working, things we wish would be working, things we wish other people would be saying, right? Our attention is on things that are fixed. And also our attention is on misperception a lot of the time, right? So what we want to do instead is we want to move our attention towards what can be moved. So something that would be fixed, our attention on something that would be fixed would look like, I can't believe he didn't meet the deadline, and that because of that, we missed the opportunity to be considered for the project, right? If we move our attention to something that can move us, meaning move us forward, we would move the lens so that we're looking more at what can we do, right? What can we do so that we can be considered for these projects in the future? What other projects can we submit for? So instead of our attention being on something that we can't shift or we can't do anything about, we need to learn to move our attention to what we can, right? Because if we're focused on the fixed part, we're in dissatisfaction again, right? We're attached, right? Attachment, think of that as being fixed, right? We're fixed onto something. So that's the first piece with our attention. Then we want to start to identify language that keeps you in the cycle of dissatisfaction. And then we want to reframe it to objective self-talk, right? So, and this, it was just shared with me. And so I wanted to put it in here because I think it resonates, that it's not what you are that holds you back. It's what you think you are not, right? And so that is a lot of what our work needs to be, right? Our attention on, right now, we have a lot of focus on what we are not, what we think we aren't, right? That keeps us in the cycle of dissatisfaction. So what we want to start to do is we want to start to pay attention to the words that we're using that create these emotions and beliefs, that create our actions, that create the results, right? Like Gandhi said, right? Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits, right? So what we need to do to move ourselves into more intentional living is to understand, okay, this language is keeping me in the cycle of dissatisfaction. I want to be able to move this language, right? So I know how they'll react, and so there's no point to saying anything at all. That's cycle of dissatisfaction. Objective self-talk looks like, what is really true? I don't know how they'll react. It's not fair to make up their mind for them. What's the best possible outcome, right? So what the attention piece here comes around paying attention to the language that is keeping us in this cycle of dissatisfaction, and then intentionally, deliberately, consciously, purposefully moving ourselves out, right? Nothing's going to change. I've tried everything. Cycle of dissatisfaction. Have any of you guys said this before? If so, put a 5 in the chat. Objective self-talk. If I choose to dedicate time and attention to learn a practice, change is possible for me, right? It does take energy to do this, right? Leading an intentional life requires effort. It just does, right? I wish I could say it didn't, but if it didn't, everybody would be doing it right now, right? We'd all be leading an intentional life if it didn't take effort. So, cycle of dissatisfaction. It's not that big of a deal when I really think about it. I need to just get over it. It's fine. Instead, what I have to say is valuable and necessary. Cycle of dissatisfaction. This is the way it is. This is how these types of relationships are supposed to be. Objective. I'm ready to redefine what my life looks like to me. Okay, so first piece of attention was to move our attention from that which is fixed to that which can move, then to pay attention to language that is keeping us in this cycle of dissatisfaction and move ourselves out to more objective self-talk, right? And then the third is living through this lens of purpose to help yourself and others suffer less, right? So we are just constantly getting caught, right? Getting caught in distraction, being, moved this way and that way. That horse is just taken off, right? We notice it. Our attention is there. Our awareness is there. Okay, let me bring it back to my purpose, right? To help ourselves and others suffer less. Well, this cycle is not helping me, right? So it's starting to identify and understand what your cycle of dissatisfaction looks like. Who are you within this cycle? So that you can bring your attention to this version of you, which is not to be upset with or mad at, but simply to just know, okay, this is the version of me in this cycle. So now I just want to pay attention to when I am in that, so I can move myself out. Okay. And then the fourth is to become the observer with our attention. So we want to just start noticing what's happening without getting caught in what's happening. So caught in what's happening looks like when I went to dinner last night, she told me that she couldn't make it on Sunday. Can you believe that? She always does this at the last minute, right? That's caught in what's happening. You're emotionally attached, right? Attached, here we are. Caught, that's another thing for attached. Fixed, another thing for attached, right? And instead, observing looks like, when I went to dinner last night, she told me that she could make it on Sunday, right? We no longer become stories. We're no longer in the stories. We are simply observing them, right? Okay, so that's attention. Any questions on attention and how that helps you lead more of an intentional life, right? And can help you become more present and grounded and kind of living through more of a responsive lens? No? Okay. So the next practice is direction. So direction is really important when we are moving ourselves into kind of this cycle of satisfaction, right? Because we have to know where we are now. So, and then we have to know what we have to let go of to move forward. So I want you to think of what areas of your life where you're stuck in this cycle of dissatisfaction. We talked a little bit about it, right? We mentioned it. Some people mentioned finances, exercise, things of that sort, right? But what part of the cycle are you in with, right? Like, are you in the misperception part where it's believing things that you don't necessarily know to be true? Are you in the attachment part where you're really attached? Are you in the reactionary part? Are you just in the loop itself, right? So I'm not asking for like where in what area necessarily, but what area in the cycle. Too much fear of the unknown. Yes. And so with the fear of the unknown, Scott, the idea with attention, right, is when we know that, when you now know, okay, that's the truth. I have this fear of the unknown. I have a lot of uncertainty, right? That's when you get to then identify that, see that that's causing more fear, causing potentially more language that is creating more dissatisfaction, right? And then you get to move your attention to be able to say, if my direction, let's say, if I want to go more in the direction of feeling safe and I want to go more in the direction of feeling secure, right? What direction do I need to take? Where does my attention need to go instead? How do I need to maybe talk to myself differently in this situation? That makes sense. Loop observation. Worth my attention, too many choices, too much dialogue in my head. Yeah. So, and the dialogue in your head is a lot of what keeps us, right? Like keeps us in the same loop. And so the work there is to really learn how to identify the dialogue that isn't helpful and see that's more hurtful, right? And see how you can move it to be helpful, not to be fake, but to be more objective, right? Deciding what action to take next, wondering what will make things better or will it just make things worse if I move forward? Yeah. So I like this one. Because this is also, Lynn, this is also fear too, right? Of uncertainty and not knowing what the outcome will be. And so this piece is really being able to move into understanding congruence, which is the next one we get into congruence in the next, I think it's the next one or the last one. Okay. Okay, so now that you know where you are, what do you have to let go of to be able to leave this loop? Right? And this could be letting go. Yeah, letting go of fear. Letting go of worry, like letting go of insecurities, letting go of past experiences potentially, right? Letting go of, yeah. Moving out of a place that is comfortable but stagnant. Yep. I mean, because here's what happens if we don't move, we just stay where we are, right? If we listen to our fear, we just stay in the same place. And so the desire to lead a different type of lifestyle has to be stronger than the fear to do it. Right? Your desire has to be stronger than your fear. So this is direction, right? So direction is really important because we begin to define where we're going and how to get there, right? Like how to get to this place where we are able to live without fear, live with the fear, live alongside the fear, right? There will always be fear, but it's more, how then do we let it be next to us, right? Like how can we let it just sit next to us? And when it comes in, instead of giving over to it, how can we change our relationship to it, right? And this is what we get into here. So energy, this is the next practice. So to really feel satisfied and calm and relaxed and at ease, right? We have to know where we are leaking our energy. We have to know where we are draining ourselves. We have to then also know how to protect our energy, meaning, you know, we can go out with certain people and by the end of it, we're just depleted and we're exhausted and we feel bad, right? How do we protect ourselves in those moments? And then how do we boost our energy? Okay, bye, Patty. It was good for you to be here. The recording will be, up right after this. Bye. And then, you know, how to boost your energy. So these are the practices we get into here. So where and with whom do you feel caught in the cycle of dissatisfaction? That is where you know that is how you know you are leaking energy, right? Or like with whom you are leaking energy. And the reason why this is important is because we want to be able to feel alive, right? And the only way for us to feel alive and to feel present is to have energy. And so if all of our energy is being given to everybody else, it's very difficult to feel vibrant. And so we want to start identifying, where am I giving too much of my energy? Right? And are there places that then maybe I can hold back on giving away too much of my energy so that I save some for myself, so that I can show up in the way that I want to, right? And then we protect our energy. So I want you guys to close your eyes. We'll do a little energy protection right now. So just take a few deep breaths and just settle into the space. And I want you to visualize, if you can, a violet light starting at the top of the head. Making its way down the face, around the neck, over the shoulders, down the arms. And if there's no color there, it's fine. I just want you to feel some type of energy that's flowing around you right now, around your chest, your diaphragm, your belly, moving it down your right leg from the hip to toes, and the left leg from hip to toes. And just see your body within this, almost like you're within a balloon of energy, violet light, white light, however it comes to you. Just see yourself protected. And you can try to push the outside of the balloon and just notice how it springs back toward you. Nothing can come in. People can say things, it'll just hit, bounce off. Protected in this and take a deep breath in and exhale. And slowly blink your eyes open. Just notice the shapes and colors. And tell me how that was in the chat. What did you see? What was your protective layer? And did you notice any difference in sensation while inside of it? Mine always is like a bubble, insulated and safe. Softer, warmer, calmer, relaxed. Yeah. And this is a place you can go anytime, right? Like you can go into the bathroom and just visualize this. You can do this before you go to bed at night. You can do it in the morning. Oh, I like that. At first felt like it was in front of me, then within me, relaxed. This is how you can protect your energy, right? Again, this is intentional. You are creating this for yourself, right? So the next piece to the energy part is identifying what your personal policies are. So personal policies are the things that you do that feel good to you, right? That are things that you really enjoy doing. And that if you aren't doing them, you start getting angry, you start getting into that cycle of dissatisfaction. So that you have it written down so that you know that if you're in the cycle of dissatisfaction, you can quickly look back at your personal policies and you can be like, oh, look, I'm not doing this, right? Oh, I'm not doing that. I want to start doing this because then I'll feel this, right? So this is another piece of the energetic puzzle. So all of these are practices to keep us leading a more, centered and grounded and connected day to day. The next practice is congruence. Carrie, is there a way to do it without conjuring up images? Yes, you mean the energy protection piece. Yeah, so it's more, you have to conjure, if it's not an image, right? Sometimes people can imagine that they're like, for me, I like imagining the racquetball wall. I like imagining that I'm a racquetball wall sometimes. But I think that if it's not through like an image, then it's a feeling inside the body, right? So if you can identify sensation in the body that gives you that sense of protection, then that's what it is, right? It's less about then creating a visual for yourself or an image for yourself, and more just closing your eyes and seeing if you can cultivate the sensation of safety in the body. Does that answer your question? Let me know. And then it's like, if I don't know what that feels like in the body, then it means getting quiet and paying attention to, bringing to mind something that doesn't feel safe and feeling what happens in the body, and then bringing to mind something that does feel safe and feeling what happens in the body. And then that way you have a sense of knowing what the sensation is. Okay. So congruence is another practice, and that is really aligning your insides with your outsides, to be able to feel really, satisfied in our relationships, to feel heard, to feel understood, to make it easy for other people to understand us. We really have to be honest, right? We really have to align what we're feeling inside with what's coming out on the outside, right? We want to access our highest self, basically. So we want to start saying what we mean. We want to start telling the truth, right? And we want to start connecting in a way that we approve of. All of these pieces are really important, because if we are not saying what we mean, then we are in that cycle again of dissatisfaction, right? People aren't going to be able to read our mind. We're going to be let down. We're going to feel misunderstood. We're going to feel unheard. And we're going to start, reacting in ways that are hurtful, that are unhelpful. We're going to start talking to ourselves in ways that are hurtful or unhelpful, right? So really aligning what's happening on the inside with the outside is very important. Any questions? On this? No? Okay, these are four strategies. So it's pretty much like a stool with two legs. You can use these four strategies and they're going to help you for sure to implement. But I truly believe you need all 12, right? These are all 12 of the practices. So it's attention, direction, energy, congruence, generosity, patience, joyful exertion, wisdom, meditation, compassion, service, and discipline. These are all practices to live in the cycle of satisfaction, right? To be there. So obstacles that come up, right? These practices won't work for me. Other people will think I'm nuts, right? This is way too much work. It's like, why do I want to put all this work in? And what is so different about this, right? So first of all, the beautiful thing about these practices is that they work for everybody, because it's all about implementing. You don't have to be a certain way. You don't have to have a certain amount of money, look a certain way to start understanding how to use your attention, to start learning what direction you're in and what direction you want to be going, right? the other people piece, like what will my family say? What will other people say? The truth is that people find, how do I say it? It's like, it's not that you have to talk about the practices. It's not that you have to talk about the way of living or the things that you're implementing. It's more that when you start to implement them, other people will start to connect with you differently. You're going to start connecting with other people differently, and it's going to change your relationships with them for the better. And a lot of times what happens is people are like, what's changed with you? What are you doing? Right? Because again, it's kind of like when somebody has like great moisturizer, or they've, they're wearing something different, and you're like, what's different about you? Right? It's the same thing. It's just, this is more like more life work, right? And it might feel on the outside like it's too much work, but what you begin to realize is that you're just doing one practice in the mentorship, it's one practice for a month. You spend an entire month just practicing one thing. And what you notice is that the more you practice it, the easier it gets, right? I just had one of my one-to-one students had just said, like, what's so great right now is that it just comes to me naturally, right? I don't even have to think about it anymore. And that's the want, right? Is that you don't have to think about living an intentional life. It just becomes the life that you live. But to be able to live it, you have to start practicing it. So it's kind of like that thing. And what's so different about this? One, it's practice. And two, it's not here to make you different. It's not here to make you better. What this is here for is to help you rediscover that you already are perfect, that you already are like enough, right? And it's here to help you tap into that might have been lost. So tell me, I want to lead a more intentional life, but blank is holding me back. What's holding you back? Anything right now? Partner, children, boss, family, anything. Maybe you making the effort. Yeah. So what is it about the effort piece? Is it the fear that you put in the effort and it's not going to work out? Or is it just really like getting to the place where you start? Health issues. Well, the great thing with health issues, it's not great to have health issues, but the piece with this is that living in this way moves you out of your sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight, flight, freeze nervous system, which is when the cortisol is rushing through the body, right? It's your stress response. And this type of living moves you into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest nervous system, which is the nervous system that you access in meditation. And meditation, right? Meditation is known to lower blood pressure, help with insomnia, help with fertility, chronic pain, memory. And so moving into this type of living can bring those benefits as well, right? My self-compassion fatigue. What does that mean? Compassion fatigue, Karen? I want to know what that means. And myself, yeah. I would say that the person who holds me back the most in my life is me, right? Because it's very easy to talk myself out of things, caring for others and emptying your cup, putting everything into others. Yeah. Right. Well, and so what this work teaches you how to do, it teaches you how to have enough energy for you and for them. Right. Oh, good. I'm glad, Denise. Okay. I hope the vet goes well. Okay. So we're a little over, but really creating an intentional life is learning this practice, right? And it really is to help you feel more satisfied, to help you reconnect with being here, and feeling, feeling more alive and feeling happy in moments where they're not so, they're not so exciting, but you're still really, you feel good being here, right? You feel like you're living with a purpose, you feel impactful, you feel connected. So I want to talk a little bit about the mentorship, if any of you guys are interested in it, because this is something that I'm really, really excited to offer. It's something I've never offered before to people outside of our training program. And I'm just really excited to get the opportunity to work with you all for a year. And so on this material, on this work, right, to really lead an intentional life, which includes intentional communication for sure. So the mentorship is for you if you're feeling stuck, you're feeling stagnant, you're wanting to feel more fulfilled and connected, you're struggling to make things stick, you're ready to make a real lasting change, right? It's really for you if you're here. Like if you're on this call, it's for you. It's online training videos, it's meditations, it's weekly calls with me. So this is where we get to work together directly. And it's where you get to come and we obviously talk about the topic for the month, the practices for the month. And it's where you show up with what's coming up for you, the challenges that you're facing, and getting feedback from me and coaching from me. There's meditations within the mentorship each month, specific to the topic that we're working, the practice that we're working. There's a community group. You get access to all of my previous workshops, and any new workshops that we do in the year, you get access to those for free. It's 1 year, and it's all about implementation, right? This is not going into your past. This is not therapy. This is not staying in one place. This is getting on the horse, taking the reins, and we are going together, because this is something hard to do on your own. I did this on my own. I figured this out on my own. And I have to tell you, it wasn't a fun thing. It took me a really long time, right? And that's the reason why I'm sharing this, so that it doesn't take you this long to figure out. And also this is really, I believe, a gift that you can give yourself, because it's the time that you need to truly be able to live, right? Like this is life. Here we are. We're experiencing it now, not next week, not next month. It's happening right now. So I want you to just implement and start living it now. Okay. So my goal is to give a person a fish, and you can give a person a fish and feed them for a day. You can teach a person to fish, feed them for a lifetime. That is what I believe this year does, right? After this year with me, I mean, you're not really going to need anything else. You might just want to hang out, right? And you might want to like do one-to-ones, and that's cool. Though you're really going to know all that you need to be able to feel in control really of your life. And I know that Cheyenne doesn't love that phrasing, but it really is, it is that feeling, right? So what's the investment? It's 2 monthly payments of $2,500, or it's 12 monthly payments of $500. So if you do the 2 monthly payments, you save $1,000. If you do the 12 monthly payments, it's a total of $6,000. And that's what it is. And I can just go, I mean, I can go through all the people that, all these testimonials and things of that sort. I don't know if I need to. Cheyenne's going to put it in here, but there's not one person that I have worked with who has not shifted their life in some way, right? It works. And I know who I am, and I know where I can move people to. and I know how to get people to where they want to be, right? That is a gift that I was given. And it is something that I think the reason why I'm so excited about this, this offer is that I get to be a part of it, right? And I get excited about it. So I worked with Mickey. She went from being overreactive, right, to really feeling more wise in her relationships. Francie, love Francie. She had a lot of negative self-talk. It kind of reminds me a little bit, Scott, of where you are. And it just kind of ran the show. Like she couldn't get through it. She tried everything, tried to get past it. And our work together totally shifted her around, right? She was really, really stuck in this place of just toxic shame and self-judgment. And she now knows how to move herself out of it. And she is just shined now. It's so great. Kevin, he also had the negative self-talk. I know, I love Kevin too. And just noticing his thoughts and how often they would just undermine him. And now he doesn't lose his temper as often, right? He's really let go of the need to control situations. And I think building faith, right? I think when Kevin first started working with me, there was this sense of kind of hopelessness, right? And I think through our work together, he really was able to have faith in something again, right? And I think that's really important. Kathy, she's like the sweetest. So for Kathy, when she and I first started working together, she was not the happiest she'd ever been, right? She was probably, I won't say she was at the lowest she'd ever been, but she definitely wasn't the happiest she'd ever been. But after working with her, she reconnected with herself again and the joy within her. And she just was like a giddy little girl. And Eugenia, for Eugenia, this was really all about conversations and being able to have difficult conversations, and being able to be seen in the way that she saw herself, right? And after working with her, she was much more equipped to be able to be in really difficult situations and act from her high self, right? And we have lots more testimonials that I can share with you guys, but I want to open it up to questions because it's already 4:50, about anything, mentorship, the practices we talked about today, or anything at all. You can put them in the chat or unmute, it's up to you. One thing I will say about the mentorship is that the group calls, so there are 3 group calls a month. So it's the first 3 Tuesdays of every month at 1:30 Eastern. They're recorded. They're always recorded and sent out afterwards. You do get the most benefit coming to those calls, right? Because it's direct coaching from me. And if you miss them, you can always email me, right? You have access to me for an entire year. So you can email me, ask me questions, anything you need, I'm there. And so the group calls are the first 3 Tuesdays of every month. And then what other questions do we normally get with like logistical things? I'm looking to see if anybody had questions. I think that's it. Do you have any questions off the top of your head, Cheyenne, that we usually get?
No, but you guys have our emails and you can, we just got one.
What's the difference between this and the year-long post-IC program? This is the year-long post-IC program. This is it. Yeah. So this is something that I just offered to those who had gone through the training program, right? And now I'm opening it up to everyone. And I think what I'm really excited about is being able to introduce those who have not gone through the training program to a lot of the practices that we use in the training program, but just through a different lens, right? But this is different than the training program. What else? Anything else? No? Okay. If not, let's just end with a quick grounding, little ending meditation for us. How is this different from the training program? So this is different in that you basically, if you've gone through the training program, what you're doing here for the year is you're deepening the practice that you've already created in the training program, right? You're now going to start living what you have been experiencing, right? Really learning how to maintain what I'm going to use the word accomplished, but what you have accomplished after the training program, right? So it really, like, through this year of practicing, you deepen the practice that you've already created. You begin to embody the practice even more, so it truly just becomes your natural state. And you get the mentorship from me, which is different, and you also get the continued support that you need as you bring your intentional communication practice into the world, right? So that's what I would say the difference is. Okay. All right. So yeah. So let's take a moment and just close our eyes. And we'll start by taking 3 long, slow, deep breaths. Inhaling slowly and fully through the nostrils and exhaling deeply. You can let your breathing return to its natural rhythm. No need to force or control it, just let it be natural. And bring your attention to the top of the head. Just relax the head. Relax the forehead. Let the eyes be heavy in their sockets. Relax the cheeks. Let go of the jaw. Relax the ears. And just notice the face relaxed and still. Soften the neck, the throat. And just let the shoulders relax back and down. Feel the weight of the hands. Just let the arms be heavy, let the hands be heavy. Relax the chest. The diaphragm. And let the belly go completely. And sink into the support of the chair, wherever you are. Just feel supported here. Relax the right leg from the hip to toes. And the left leg from hip to toes. And feel the whole body relaxed and still. Move your attention now to your feet. And feel the energy underneath the feet. Maybe it's throbbing, maybe it's tingling. Move your attention now to your heart center. And see if you can cultivate the sensation of appreciation, gratitude. Appreciation for this moment here together today. For your feet that take you where you need to go. For your hands that get to create, hold, feel. Appreciation for your arms that get to hug. For your ears, hearing the sounds of those you love, the birds, music. Appreciation for the mouth, your taste. And for the eyes that get to see sunrises and sunsets, people you love, colors. Appreciation for your nose. Smells of home, fresh baked goods, flowers. And just sit here for a moment in this appreciation for this moment where you're safe, where you're healthy, and let go and just sit in the stillness here. And start to circle your wrists, roll your shoulders, maybe circle your head. Stretch out into space, just feel what it feels like. How much of it you want to take up, how little. And when you're ready, you can blink your eyes open. Just notice the shapes and colors around you. And come back. So, thank you all for being here today. I hope that was comfortable for everyone. Hi, Deborah. All right. I hope to see some of you in the mentorship to get the opportunity to work together for a full year. It will be fabulous. If you have any questions, I'm here. You can email me directly at cynthia@intentionalcommunicationinstitute.com. You can catch up with Cheyenne. I'm going to be sending out emails with the recording. So anything you need, we're here for you. Okay. And thank you for showing up for yourselves and for showing up for everyone else. All right. Lots of love. Mwah. Oh, what's the topic next month? So all of you who start the mentorship are going to start April, the first week of April is going to start, and you're going to start at attention. So you're going to start at the top. There's other people who are in the mentorship now. They're all in a different practice, but everybody who's going to start together now is going to start at the beginning. Okay. Okay. Mwah. Bye. Oh, is there a cutoff time? So I'm like, I should probably look at the chat first. The cutoff time is really just before we start, right? So the first group call is going to be on April 5th. I think that's the first Tuesday in April. So that's really the cutoff time is April 5th, right? So yeah, just let me know. Okay. Mwah. Bye.